Well, we're going to begin, and welcome friends and industry colleagues. I'm Julie Carney, Chief of the Space Bureau, and I'm so excited along with our team to welcome you to the Commission for the Space Bureau's first open house event and to share with you more about the Space Bureau's Transparency Initiative as part of the broader space innovation agenda. As you can see, the Bureau has been very busy since our April 11th launch event. Saying launch and Space Bureau at the FCC never gets old, by the way. FCC Chairwoman Rosenworcel recognizes that the space sector is in a period of massive innovation. The Commission's role in advancing opportunities for innovation in the new space age is to expedite the application processes for space stations and Earth stations consistent with our objective to promote a competitive and innovative global telecommunications marketplace via space services. Applications for space services before the Commission continue to increase in complexity and number, as many of you are aware. In terms of applications, this year we're seeing almost double the number of space station applications as were filed in 2019. For Earth stations, our end-of-year total is estimated to be almost double that of 2017. Of course, the Bureau work is accomplished by many dedicated people whom I'd like to recognize and who are here in the room or watching us remotely. You've likely met our leaders, some of our leaders in the front office, including Carrie Murray, Jennifer Gilson, and Troy Tanner, Patrick Weber, Jeanette Kennedy, Steve Dool, and Carl Kensinger, who's on travel for the FCC, and Dr. Whitney Lohmeyer, our chief technologist. You'll hear more from Whitney in a bit. Also, Sulaiman Sanusi has been behind the scenes on the IT work with our FCC IT team, and Shawana Courtney has been working with us on our administrative issues, and many, many others. We also have Stephanie Rose in the who's our Space Bureau data scientist, the first one, and she is helping us to quantify and rationalize our processes and applications. Next, I'd like to recognize our hardworking divisions who are deeply involved in the space station and Earth station applications and also working with regulatory frameworks so that our rules can meet the next generation space age. Our satellite policy and planning division, SPPD, led by Marissa Velez and her talented team, if you could raise your hands. SPPD in the house, okay. Our Earth Station Licensing Division, led by Franco Hinojosa and his talented team. Franco, raise your hand. All right, and your team? Okay, virtual. And our Satellite Licensing Division, led by Catherine Medley, who is out preparing for the ITU World Radio Communication Conference in just a few weeks, and her talented team. So if any of those folks are here, raise your hand. Okay. So by fostering the success of new applications and capabilities, the Transparency Initiative will help all of us, private sector and government alike, including those who've just come into the room, to keep up with the rapid pace of innovation. In creating this initiative, we're carefully reviewing our rules and doing our best to provide information and guidance so that applicants, specifically new applicants, can better understand the Commission's procedures and what is needed to obtain authorization for space station and Earth station operations. We believe that this initiative will reduce administrative burdens on both applicants and staff and will further expedite the processing of applications. This is where I hear applause, right? Today, our Bureau staff will review a few of the documents that we've released to date, and then we'll have a panel discussion on the pre-submitted questions. As we look around the room and at the list of registered online participants, hello online participants, we're pleased to see a combination of existing stakeholders and newer entrants. The Bureau's hope is that the Transparency Initiative and the knowledge sharing that we engage in over the next few weeks and months will make for an even better understanding of our rules to best serve the satellite community. Now, even if you're in the room, please continue to submit questions to satinfo@fcc.gov. And with that, it is my great pleasure to invite a familiar face to many of you, Dr. Whitney Lohmeyer, the Chief Technologist of the Space Bureau.
All right, hello everyone. It's nice to see familiar faces. As Julie said, my name is Whitney Lohmeyer. I'm the Chief Technologist of the Space Bureau, and I'm co-leading this initiative with Jeanette Kennedy, Associate Chief. And we've been working alongside staff and the Bureau to really make this possible. Prior to joining the Commission, I worked as an advisor to entities across academia and private sector on satellite and space station licensing. And I often found that I would receive the same questions over and over again. And for those who are advisors in the room, I imagine you can relate to this experience and maybe have answered some of those questions this week, maybe later today. And for those who are new entrants or applicants, I can imagine you've had to field some of those questions to your investors or to some of your managers. Questions like, how long is this going to take? How much is this going to cost? Where do I put my TT&C frequencies? Is this application going to kick off a processing round? And for our industry, being that it is as complex from a technical and regulatory perspective, it's not so surprising that some of these questions surface. And at the same time, there are numerous of these that we can address in a way that is more user-friendly and accessible. So I'm thrilled to be a part of the Commission in this initiative under the chairwoman and our chief, Julie, to prioritize the transparency of our licensing process. So I'm going to show some slides here just to walk through exactly what we mean by the Transparency Initiative. We've launched, thanks to Sue, who was mentioned, who's been helping us on the IT side, 3 separate web pages. And so we'll go over those briefly, and then we'll talk about next steps as far as rollouts for other sorts of guidance documents. The first of the 3 web pages is our space station licensing processes, the terms, and the cost. We've also got a checklist for the space station license. So if you ever wanted to go to a single place and understand exactly what you needed to make a Part 25 license, you've now got that. And you've got example documents and templates that you can kind of plug and play information. And then lastly, we have a page that goes over our small satellite and small spacecraft licensing procedures. All right, so as Julie mentioned, the Space Bureau is all about enabling global satellite and space-based communications marketplace. And the initiative is really about providing user-friendly and accessible guidance and optional forms that you can choose to use or are your choice not to, but templates and examples. I see some smiles. Maybe you're just as excited about this as I am. So if you've yet to see some of the pages we've launched and you're not really sure how to even access them, you can just Google Space, FCC, Transparency Initiative. But right on the front page next to Julie's portrait is a link here on the side that says Transparency Initiative. So there's that arrow pointing that. And then you've got quick links. And actually, we provide quick links on the majority of our pages. So if you were to go to Earth Station Licensing Division, you'll actually see some quick links with information and guidance docs already. We'll be updating those, but they're a nice start. Currently, our most up-to-date Transparency Initiative docs are on these quick links here. So those 3 I was just mentioning, space stations, our Part 25 checklist, and then the small satellite and small spacecraft. And so that first link, which goes over the processes, breaks down the Part 25 commercial space station process, the Part 5 experimental, and then the Part 97 amateur radio license process. These are at a high level. And so down the road, we'll be providing more information, particularly on experimentals, that Part 5, which we see a lot of questions come in about. We've got a section on the terms. So how long is that license going to enable you to operate? And then the cost structure, which we also see a lot of questions around. So we've got a lengthy table that goes over the associated application cost, and then for the Part 25 breaks down the surety bond and the regulatory fee information. So to show a screenshot of just one of these sections, you have the license term here, and each row corresponds to the different licensing process with some text and helpful links going directly to our rules. And here's a snapshot of the very first few rows of our checklist. So you can see the Form 312, as well as on that next row, the question 40, which has to do with the ownership information of your entity. You've got a template and example in that second column that you can download in a Word document and see in the example how someone else might have filled out this information. And on that next row, we have narrative. So you'll see two links, both to templates for what we used to call the legal narrative. We are also using this opportunity to kind of streamline some of our terminology. So we're referring to this as our narrative, and then what some have called, myself included, the technical attachment. We're actually going to call that our technical annex. So some have already been using this terminology, but that'll help us all to use a single sort of language as well. So we have two links there, which are narrative templates for a market access application or a US-based application. And that was only, like I mentioned, the first 3 rows of that checklist. It contains numerous other rows. You'll see a row for orbital debris mitigation plan. We're going to be launching those documents later next year, as well as numerous rows on ITU requirements, and hopefully some helpful links and documents for that as well. These are screenshots of some of the templates and examples we're providing. So on the left, you have one of those narratives, or what we've called in the past legal narrative. In the middle, you have the example of the question 40 ownership information. I'm sorry, a template. You would fill that in. And then on the right, you have one of the ITU letters that's required. The last page we've launched, these are 2 screenshots. The first being the introduction to the page, the small satellite and small spacecraft licensing process, and then further down that page, if you would scroll, the qualifying criteria for the small satellite licensing process. So we've laid them out. We've also linked the orders in which those are initially published. We've got the small spacecraft process, which also provides the qualifying characteristics. And these are the first 3 documents that we've released, or I would say web pages that are, they contain multiple documents within them. And Julie mentioned the SATinfo email address. So satinfo@fcc.gov is going to be the communication channel we're going to use for all sorts of questions you may have, anything and comments, really. So the success of this initiative will depend on us working together. So if you see anything as small as like a typo that you'd like to fix, all the way to a document that you wish was there that might be missing, or that you're curious if we're planning to release, this is going to be where you would send that information. Equally, if you have a question, we're going to be using the questions. Several of you have already submitted questions, so thank you for that. We're going to be using those questions that we received to actually populate some of our frequently asked questions, or FAQ documents, and we will continue to be updating these documents over time. So what's next in terms of document release? We're going to be publishing a space station FAQ. So like I said, if you haven't yet submitted questions to SATinfo, there's still time. We're going to be putting out examples for confidentiality requests, Earth Station licensing process. There are some resources already on the Earth Station licensing division page within our Space Bureau site. We're going to be revisiting them and updating them to make sure that they contain the latest information. ICFS tutorials. Some of the questions we receive have to do with coordination. There's a lot of confusion around that process. It's pretty complicated. So we're going to spend time providing resources on that process, who to contact to hopefully ease that for everyone involved. Orbital debris is also another matter that we see a lot of questions come in. It can be particularly specific to the applicant. And so to the best of our ability, we're going to be providing examples and templates that might address kind of 90% of those questions. And then, of course, there still will be some unique instances of information that we will continue to request. And then, last but not least, the experimental licensing process and special temporary authority authorization that we see a lot of companies use to kind of demonstrate technology for a period of time. And we receive questions on whether we can transition that sort of license into a full Part 25. And so we'll be working with you all to put forth information to hopefully address those. And just like we have today, our kickoff event, we're going to bring people together at each of these kind of milestone releases and have discussions around them to make sure that they're achieving our goal of providing user-friendly information to all. So what we're going to do now is actually transition to a discussion with Marissa Velez and Franco Hinojosa. So like I believe Julie mentioned, Marissa, if you two want to come on up, we'll sit together. Marissa is the chief of our Satellite Policy and Planning Division, and Franco is the chief of our Earth Station Licensing Division. I'm going to sit with you both. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to the two of you just to take a couple minutes to introduce yourself, tell us about your role here, your day-to-day, and maybe your career leading up to this role too.
I guess I'll start. So I'm Marissa Velez. I'm the chief of the Satellite Programs and Planning Division. I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces in the audience, seeing some folks I actually haven't seen since before the pandemic in person, so that's great to see today. Thanks for joining us in person, and to those on the watching the live stream as well, thanks for joining. So in my role as the chief of the Programs and Policy Division, I lead a really hardworking team who's addressing policy issues across the board, including legal review of all satellite applications. We handle everything from sort of the granular level legal review of individual applications to work on some of the broader policy issues presented to the Bureau, thinking about issues in context of rulemakings and other policy matters. So really across the board, providing legal support for the Bureau. Previously, I was the chief of the Satellite Policy Branch within the International Bureau Satellite Division. So I've been working on satellite issues for a number of years, and focusing on licensing, on small satellites, and orbital debris issues, among other things. One of the things that we do a lot in the division is meet with companies to talk through questions that they might have about their applications. You know, sometimes it's before they file, sometimes it's after they file, and talk with them about some of the specifics of what they're looking at and how to file things under our rules. And I think as part of this initiative, I'm really excited for the opportunity to be able to direct folks to information that's readily available on our website, that's concise and has some of the key information that they may need to sort of help them get started, at least in the process. And so I think that's going to be a great benefit hopefully for folks on the outside who are working through the application process, but I think it's going to also help our staff time and facilitate our workload as well. So,
thank you. Franco, will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning. My name is Franco Hinojosa. I'm the chief of the Earth Station Licensing Division. Prior to that, I just joined the FCC about a year ago, and I came as the branch chief for the Systems Analysis Branch, which was the Earth Station Licensing back then. So I'm fairly new to the FCC, so I only know a few people here. But I've been doing SATCOM for close to 20 years now. Prior to that, I was in the DoD working for DISA, the Defense Information Systems Agency. I was the chief engineer for teleports. I worked for Presidential Communications. And I'm an engineer by trade, so I'm not an attorney. So just so you know. My division is in charge of basically processing, doing the technical analysis, the review, and the licensing of all our stations. And thanks to Marissa, basically, we get all the licenses done. And that's pretty much it.
All right, well, thank you both. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to ask Marissa a set of questions, several of which she receives on a routine basis, several of which have been submitted to satinfo@fcc.gov. And then we'll hand it over and ask some ERSC station licensing questions to Franco. And you can smile if you've received one of these questions in the past. So the first one is, our satellite is scheduled for an upcoming rideshare mission. When should I file my application?
So the short answer on this one is that if there is a launch scheduled, to get in touch with us as soon as possible to talk about licensing. The timeframes for processing can really vary depending on the complexity of the application, on coordination, on a number of issues. But the sooner we have the application on file and can start reviewing it, the better. And the more likely that we'll be able to process the application in advance of the date when the operator actually needs to have that license in hand to get on that launch. So I think the answer is the sooner the better. Again, variety of timeframes in terms of processing, and we'll try to do our best, but there are some sort of limitations on what we're able to do, and we want to set everyone up for success in terms of processing the application. So I think that, yeah, the sooner the better.
Great, okay. And also, I don't know that I mentioned this in the upcoming documents, but the next one we're going to be releasing is actually going to go over timelines and the aspects of each kind of element of that timeline. So we'll be going through step by step, and you can figure out kind of where you are in that process and backtrack and kind of compute how much time generally it would take. Of course, the more complex the application is, the more likely that might vary. But our next question is, my company is working on a new satellite. How do I get started with licensing?
So on this question, my answer is that you're in the right place to start thinking about FCC licensing. That being said, it's also important to understand at the outset that there may be other regulatory aspects to your satellite operations, not just FCC licensing. So it's important to note if there are other regulatory approvals you may need, like approval from the Department of Commerce, NOAA, commercial remote sensing, for example. So, FCC is one piece of that, but just want to emphasize that it's perhaps not the only piece. But for FCC licensing specifically, I think that the documents that have been released and will continue to be released as part of this transparency initiative are a great place to start as far as understanding the FCC processes and what to expect in terms of application, in terms of costs. And then that's kind of a jumping off point for starting to prepare the materials for the application and in many cases the ITU filings as well. I will note that we're glad to help guide applicants to useful information. We're always open to meeting with folks and trying to troubleshoot or identify potential issues or concerns. But we're not able to give legal or technical advice or fill out materials for applicants. So just noting that some applicants do find it helpful to engage legal counsel or other consultants to help them through the process or address specific issues along the way.
All right, thank you for that. Our satellite is a small sat, but I've heard something about FCC experimental licensing. What should I do?
So I think you're seeing a theme here in terms of the questions. Really early stage, just trying to understand what the processes are. Companies that may have heard something from someone else who's gone through the process, who kind of gave them some advice on something, and they're trying to understand what they should do. And I think once again, I think, referring to some of the documents that are on the website now that set out what experimental licensing is at the FCC and what that means and how that's different from a Part 25 license. There's also information on amateur licensing, which is a little bit less common, but we do see that come through sometimes. And so I'll just go into a little bit of it briefly for purposes of the event today. But most commonly we see requests for either Part 25 licensing or experimental licensing. The experimental licensing process is more limited, typically for testing and demonstration types of missions, and that process is managed by our Office of Engineering and Technology at the FCC. The Part 25 process, which Part 25 actually refers to the rules section with the rules that are address satellite licensing, can cover any type of mission, including commercial missions. And the processing of those applications is handled by the Space Bureau. Within Part 25, there's also a more streamlined process for small satellites that meet certain criteria. And there's, as Whitney noted, we've got some pages available on the website that have more information about that. Things like short on-orbit lifetime, and small satellites meeting those criteria are exempt from some of the procedures that we would normally apply to non-geostationary orbit satellites. And they also have lower fees than regular Part 25 licenses. So again, I think a good starting point is, now that we have the information available on our website in plain language, to go there first. But we're also glad to discuss specifics with applicants if they want to understand whether they might be eligible for different types of licensing. And I know our colleagues in OET are also open to discussion on the experimental licensing side.
Great, thank you. So this next question is the one I think probably many of us can relate to, or relate to a fielding in the past. But what radio frequency should I use to support my satellite mission?
So this is a tough one when we get it at the FCC because we cannot tell applicants what radio frequencies to use for satellite communications. When we get these questions, we'll direct folks to the table of frequency allocations as a starting point to take a look and understand which frequencies are allocated to satellites, and within those, which frequencies might be suitable for the type of service that they're looking to operate in. We do try to, as I said, sort of troubleshoot or help, guide folks if there's some things that they're looking at that we've seen issues with in the past. We always try to make operators aware that even if there is a satellite allocation and the table of allocations, some frequencies are shared with other operations like terrestrial or federal operations, which can really limit the availability of satellite operations in those bands, and also are likely to require coordination. For new commercial operators for non-geostationary satellites, we often do see requests to use frequency bands that are shared with federal operators, and in those cases we recommend starting the regulatory process really early to allow for the necessary coordination to use those frequencies, which can take a fair amount of time in some cases, depending on what federal agencies are using them and how much spectrum is involved. So we don't have an answer of which spectrum to use, but those are some of the places I think that we would try to guide folks to take a look at as they're thinking about frequency selection.
Alrighty. So we're going to ask a question now that has to do with the small satellite streamline process, which was that third page that we talked about today. So we saw those qualifying criteria. And the question that we often receive is, I think our satellite qualifies for the small satellite streamline process, but it doesn't fit one of the qualifying criteria. How should I proceed?
Yeah, so this is a question we see sometimes. The good news is I think we've seen a good number of applications coming through the small satellite process at this point in time. It seems to be functioning as intended, and I think has been a good approach for some operators in terms of the licensing process. But one of the things to note is that even if a satellite or system doesn't qualify for streamlined processing, there still is a path forward for licensing. It's just likely to be under regular Part 25. I'll note that the commission can consider waivers of rules for good cause, but those are really in limited circumstances, and I think that's particularly true when it comes to the small satellite process. And then if there are additional questions regarding rules or requirements, and this applies across the board, not just to the small satellite rules, but we do direct folks to the more detailed discussion that's in the FCC's order or orders that adopted those rules. So I know on the small satellite page, for example, there's links to the commission's orders, which have a detailed description of all the different criteria, of the rationale for those criteria, and how some of the comments that came in during the development of those rules were addressed.
Great. So our last question for Marissa, we've been talking a bit about licensing. We're going to wrap it up with a glimpse into the review process. So Marissa, how does the satellite application review process work in the Space Bureau?
Sure, and I'll take this opportunity to also mention our work with the Satellite Licensing Division, which is the team of engineers led by Catherine Medley. We work really closely with both Catherine's team and Franco's team on legal issues associated with applications. And so I think just wanted to mention that since she's not here today, that the attorneys and engineers are working really closely together in review of all the applications that come into the Space Bureau. But I just kind of going back, we'll kind of talk through a little bit on terms of the process, how things work on our side, what we're looking at, and how it proceeds. So once the application is filed in our International Communications Filing System, which is in the process of being updated, and I think there's going to be some more information to come on maybe tutorials, particularly as the new system perhaps comes online. But once the application is filed in that system, there is an intake process where a file number is assigned to the application, and we confirm that the fee has been paid for the application fee specifically. If the application is a request for a new satellite or system, then there will be a call sign that's assigned at that point as well. Then it moves into the initial phase for the initial legal and engineering review of the application. And this is basically to determine if the application is substantially complete and can otherwise be accepted for filing. If it is acceptable, then most applications are placed on public notice for a period of 30 days. There are some exceptions to this, for example, for applications for certain periods for special temporary authority. But for the most part, particularly if it's an application for a new satellite system or satellites, that will be placed on public notice for a period of 30 days. And then there'll be additional time for responses and replies if there are comments or objections filed. And so as we think about timelines in terms of processing applications, you're sort of looking at the minimum timeline to process you have this 30-day period in addition to the processing time for the staff. So once the application is on public notice, and then as that 30-day period runs, the staff will proceed with a review of the application, including the more detailed technical and legal analysis, and will review and address any comments or objections that are filed in connection with the application. It's also at that time that coordination would take place with other bureaus and offices at the FCC. So for example, if there's a band that's shared with terrestrial operators, often we'll be coordinating with our colleagues in the Wireless Telecommunications Bureau. And then also at that point, any necessary coordination with other government agencies would take place. So for example, any coordination with the National Telecommunication and Information Administration, or NTIA, which would be the coordination that takes place if there are frequency bands that are shared with federal users. So once any coordination is completed, then the Bureau, and it's typically at this point the Satellite Programs and Policy Division, will release a decisional document regarding the application. Often this takes the form of a grant stamp, which is sort of a little bit of a simplified document that has a list of the frequencies authorized, orbital location information, conditions, and other details about the operations. In some cases, there will be a written order addressing the application request, which has some additional detail in it as well. It's really important, I can't emphasize this enough, for licensees to carefully review the license conditions and reach out to us if they have any questions or concerns after the issuance of the decisional document, and also to make sure that on an ongoing basis that there's compliance with all of the conditions as well as the Commission's rules for any operations that are authorized. The grant is also based on the information that's provided in the application to the FCC. So all the information in the application about how the satellite or system will operate is part of what's incorporated into the grant. And if information that's provided in that application changes, whether that's during the time that the application is pending or after the grant, then the applicant or the licensee is obligated by rule to notify the FCC so that we can take that into account. And this does come up sometimes. There may be changes as things get closer to launch. There's a parameter that's changing. It's really important for us to know that as soon as possible so that we can talk about next steps and talk about how to incorporate that into our decision-making process.
All right. And so 2 things to note. A recording of today's discussion will also be online. So if there is a part that you're like, oh, what did Marissa just say about the licensing process, you'll be able to go and easily find that information on our review of applications. And as I mentioned, the next document that we'll be releasing is actually going to provide a timeline of each of those steps that Marissa just walked us through. We're going to transition now into a discussion with Franco about Earth Station licensing. So Franco, our first question is, I've already got my satellite license. Do I need an Earth Station license to communicate with the Earth Station?
Yes. Generally, I mean, so I won't go into too many details as far as the Earth Station questions because we're going to be talking about them at a later date on the Transparency Initiative. So, but to answer the question, yes. The space station side follows a different licensing procedure path than the Earth Station side. So you have to have both. In some cases, it depends who's going to own the license, but regardless who's going to own it, both an Earth Station and a space station license need to be basically authorized.
And can you remind us what form is needed to be complete for the Earth Station license?
So to apply for an Earth Station license, you use Form 312, which is the same form for space and Earth Station licenses. However, there's a lot of differences between them. So even though you're going to file the same form, depending on whether it's an Earth Station or a space station service, and the type of service also, right? What type of materials you'll be required to file with the 312.
Okay. And so that Form 312 is the first row of our Part 25 checklist for future reference. So our next question is kind of similar to our first, but with a bit of a nuance. Can applicants apply for regular Earth Station licenses to communicate with authorized experimental space stations?
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of these questions lately. So a lot of applicants are trying to communicate with experimental satellites. And the short answer is yes. Yes, we can grant Earth Station licenses to communicate with experimental satellites. However, there's a lot of factors that we got to take into consideration, like whether the Earth Stations were coordinated, what frequencies they're using, what the services are. So even though we can grant it, trying to get an Earth Station license to communicate with an experimental space station, it's very difficult.
Alrighty. Can I apply to operate my Earth Station in any frequency band?
No. Well, I mean, so no, you're not allowed to. But we encourage all the Earth Station applicants to basically coordinate or talk to the space station operators to ensure that the frequencies that they are requesting on the Earth Station licensing side actually are frequency bands that the space station is authorized to operate on. A lot of times we notice that Earth Station applicants, they just put all the frequencies that the Earth Station side or the Earth Station itself can handle without regards to what space stations they're going to be communicating with. Yeah, just make sure that the Earth Station, before you apply for an Earth Station, you just communicate with the space station operators to make sure that both applicants are talking about the same frequency bands.
Alrighty. Can I apply for my Earth Station to communicate with a non-US licensed space station?
Yes, so this will be basically U.S. market access. But, I mean, yes, you can apply it. However, if you do apply it, if you do apply for an Earth station license to communicate with non-U.S. satellite operators, then the Earth station license has to provide information that basically that complies with Part 25-137 and Part 25-114, which is basically communications with non-U.S. satellite space stations. But one thing that we must note is that if you do get the authorization to communicate with non-U.S. satellites through the Earth station side, the fees will be applied. So basically, a yearly fee of upwards of $100K, I believe. I'm not a fee guy, but that's what I was told.
We'll be publishing resources on that down the road.
That is true.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. I already have an equipment authorization for my terminals. Why would I need an Earth station authorization too?
Yeah, this is another one that I've been receiving lately. So an equipment authorization basically allows you to use the terminal or RF device in a way that, well, it shows that you can use the device without interfering or causing harmful interference to other devices, or basically it minimizes the human radiation danger. The Earth station license, on the other hand, allows you to use the spectrum, the RF spectrum. It allows you to communicate with other space stations and basically transmit or receive, depending on what you're trying to do. But they're completely different. One is it just allows you to operate the device. The other one allows you to use the spectrum to communicate with other devices.
All righty. Well, that was all the questions that we had for today's kickoff. We're going to hand it back over to Julie, who's going to wrap us up, and then the Bureau will be here to kind of mix and mingle a bit. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And in the spirit of true streamlining, we're ending sooner than we thought. We allocated more time, so we're actually granting you time back. We're expediting your day. So thank you to the team for working so hard. We're really thrilled that you're here. What we saw were a lot of questions come in, I think, that will help streamline the process and hopefully get you into space sooner and quicker. So let me tell you a little bit about what's coming next. You got a preview from Whitney. Our next set of documents will be issued this year. They'll be on space station applications, the timeline, and also Earth station licensing. Next year, we'll have more guidance on special temporary authority, coordination, and ITU. We don't have our open houses scheduled quite yet for the remainder of the year, but those will be scheduled soon. We have a lot of internal coordination. We want to make sure we're not interfering with other commission events. So stay tuned for that, and please refer to our website. And again, satinfo@fcc.gov will be a very useful resource. It is monitored in real time, and we really appreciate all the work you do with us to coordinate and to make the next generation space age a reality. So we will be around for a little bit, and I just want to give applause to the Space Bureau team, and really, this is a very hardworking team, and Jonathan Campbell in the chairwoman's office is here and is a great partner with us and helps to help us get things done. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day and the time you're getting back.